All right, we're going to introduce our next speaker, Dawn. So Dawn at Berkeley is an innovative ed tech leader who excels in both the research and implementation aspects of bringing new creative ideas to transform her school. We welcome Dawn to the stage, please.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Tom, for the introduction. As he said, I have been a teacher, he didn't mention, but I've been a teacher now for 18 years. And currently I lead technology integration efforts at St. Albans School. We are an all-boys school, grades 4 through 12 in the heart of DC. We do have a sister school across our campus, the National Cathedral School, which is our all-girls school. And we're instituted as part of an act of Congress out of the National Cathedral, to give you some context. So I'm wife and mom to 4 children, so if my phone goes off, please don't judge me. My daughter has called twice, Mommy, David won't get me. Just figure it out, please. But anyway, I digress. I wanted to kind of start off with excuse me, some data that I gathered from a conference I attended maybe 2 years ago, Common Sense Media. Many people familiar with Common Sense, right? So they published this, which is this document where they went into this research and found out and discovered from this research that about 98% of children in America has access to a mobile device at home. So me as a tech leader, me as a tech integrationist, of course with this I'm like, oh no. This is good to know, of course for me, but what position does that put me in as a tech leader in a school where there are a lot of concerns about mindfulness, a lot of concerns about balance, a lot of concern about mindful use of technology. So with that said, they also discovered that about 1 in 3 internet users worldwide are youth. The study size was about 1,400 parents who are sharing this data about their children. So at the talk, we heard from Tristan Harris. Many of you have probably seen Tristan. He's done a couple of segments with with Anderson Cooper. He's done a couple of segments with him about the intentional design of many of the tech tools that we use and the exploitive nature of some of these tools and what that does in the brain of a child. And so with this information, I wanted to share this with my faculty, but I had to also think, what place does that put me in when I'm trying to launch a program, trying to talk about how we might want to use or integrate technology? And so I came up with this idea of using technology or designing technology for social good. And so the problem currently that we believe is that students are consuming technology and digital media like never before. We know that. So on the consumption end, my mindset is always, how do we get and how do we cultivate an environment where students are creators and creators of experiences? And then more importantly, how do they use that to bridge communities? The population is obviously just this critical sentiment, maybe amongst educators, about the role that technology plays in so many sectors. And in an ideal world, my sense would be to love to promote the use of technology as an agent of social change. Again, here are some of our boys. I'm just going to cross this stage here. Here are some of our boys on our campus. As I mentioned, we do have a sister school where they're able to take classes in coordination with the girls. And so my question was, how might perceptions of technology amongst our community, students and faculty, how could those be influenced when there are interactions, positive interactions, with tools that are developed by students? And so my hypothesis was, if the boys created an experience with technology that positively had an impact on the community, would that in some degree, or to some degree, would that impact or influence the perception that others within the community have about technology, if they see it in a positive light? So I did research. I started searching for articles and research related to tech for social good. I looked for tech for social good in schools. I looked at how just these many communities are leveraging technology to bridge community, the development of products that help to better the lives of people within those communities. And so I found these many articles. Some were on aging, some were on, here you found one, how student activists are using tech skills to chart new paths. And so I came up with these 3 threads out of the research. One was the impact of service learning projects on students. The second was the future of technology for good in communities. And then finally, the use of technology to mitigate accessibility barriers with patients. And so amongst that research, I kind of started to turn my wheels and said, how could I actually make this a real thing? So I started my development phase of my research project where I said, what if I created a club, a group of boys within our school who could sort of be the face of technology integration, responsible technology use within the school. So I created this program called the Tech Ambassadors Program. It's a group of boys, we meet once a week, and I'll give you more details in a minute, but essentially, let's start with that. After I created the group, I then set about and I said, boys, I really need you to go about, engage the community. Figure out what problems people are having that touch in the area of technology or maybe not, and how technology can come in and help to solve those problems. So they did all the work. They created these pre-surveys, of course with my help, pre and post surveys to kind of, to just fill our community. We then analyzed the data, and based on that data, they came up with a product that they wanted to deliver and deploy to the school community to kind of get that feedback. And at the end, you'll see that we, of course, collected the feedback, analyzed the data. Here are the boys. You'll also notice, in addition to them in their leading their technology efforts, they do a little bit of fabrication. They came up with a badge, and we used the Glow Forge, and we printed these cool little badges so the boys like to wear them. They came up with their own logo. So again, I'm trying to put this in their hands, and they have taken it and have run with it. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's an amazing idea. Are you gonna do it? Who's gonna be in charge of this? And they are so eager and excited and thorough. And I love working with them because they give me a lot of inspiration, but they also give me a lot of nice ideas. So here we are in our meetings. As I mentioned, we meet about once a week for about 25 minutes during lunch. So they sacrifice lunch with a teacher, and I sacrifice the lunch with students. So, no, I'm kidding, because we actually, we have tables, we have family-style lunches every day, so I sit with boys every day for lunch. But anyway, we sit here, they lead the meeting, they come up with the agenda, they run it. I'm just there. But again, this all started with an idea. Have the students take ownership of this. They created the surveys, as you see here. Certainly won't go through all the questions here. But based on the survey, this was funny to me because I said, all right, so let's distill some of these responses. What are some problems people are having? Wi-Fi. Or as they like to say, Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi is acting crazy. So that was their problem. I said, well, okay, how can we solve that? And so they started to kick the idea around and said, okay, maybe we're not able to fully solve it. Maybe we can set up some kind of automated way to notify, the IT that maybe the Wi-Fi is out or something to that effect. And so they circled, these ideas around their heads. They came up with laggy Chromebooks, online note-taking. They talked about more reliable sources and databases. But after they're distilling that, we also have the community data on the right. How could the tech ambassadors help improve your technology or tech experience within St. Albans? Out of the 154 responses, we had about 47 or 30% of students say make videos on their YouTube channel. That was a recommendation. Have a live Q&A session about tech-related topics. Come around the classrooms with orientations about how to do things. So to give you further context, I'm the ed tech coordinator at the school, and I serve about 500 and less than 600 boys, just shy of 600 boys. So I work in both the lower and upper schools, and it's just me, and I don't make up a team, as it were. So this is why the tech ambassadors are so critically important to my efforts, and as far as just the plan that we hope to facilitate in the school. Lunch announcements and emails. And so they came up with, won't we make a website? And I said, that's not a bad idea. Before the website was, let's make a chat bot. And the chat bot would essentially take the student's schedule for the day and push it and funnel it through this chat bot where students would say, hey, what's my schedule for the day? And what do I need for that class in terms of books, materials, and such? And it would pop it back up on their phone or some other device. They decided against that, came up with the website. They have kind of an FAQ section on the website. Here's a snapshot of their YouTube channel where you can see viewership and subscribers. Viewership at the end actually increased by 62%. They started to promote. They did it again, not me. They went before their peers and said, hey, we have this cool site, check it out, give us your feedback, which you'll see in the post-survey results. Our number of subscribers went up by 12%. 1% would have been great, but 12% is nice, I'll take it. And so in addition to that, they've used, of course, different survey methods to pull our community. And so out of this, in terms of post-survey and trends we discovered, there was a tech for social good sentiment around the boys. One question was, how much do you agree with the following? Is technology useful for improving society? So again, we were initially trying to set out to discover what was the sentiment around faculty and students, and I'll talk a little bit about why I was unable to fully capture all the faculty data that I wanted. Because again, I'm really interested in what adults and teachers and educators are thinking about in this space. But again, it was positive for me to see that this is where the voices thinking was. One question they asked in terms of anecdotal feedback, do you feel the website has met a community need? Yes, sometimes there's a lack of information about how to do something online, and the Tech Ambassadors website has lots of answers, as well as links. Another piece of feedback, in what ways do you feel technology could help community relationships? One student said, I think it can bond teachers and students by making students feel that they can talk to their teachers, but don't want to start in person. That's interesting. And you'll find just that anonymous piece or that piece of being able to initiate a contact that you might be somewhat hesitant to make face-to-face. Another thing, technology being useful for improving society was a question. Again, the results are somewhat similar. Technology for social good, again, similar results. So there's this positive sentiment amongst the boys, generally speaking, that technology can be leveraged as an agent for social change and social good. The F word, my failures during this experiment. So, remember I mentioned this piece about I really wanted to capture faculty sentiment. As you know, and Michelle has pointed out, time is an interesting thing. We all have the same amount of time, right? And so trying to get teachers to respond when they're really busy is difficult. I was grateful for 16 responses. But I really wanted to know what teachers were feeling about that. And I was always also willing to do face-to-face interviews. It's not just, sometimes those go far more than just a survey deployed. Sometimes we get tired of seeing surveys. So having that face-to-face interaction is always helpful, and occasionally I'll have that kind of discussion with the teacher. So in our next phase, if I were to do this again, and what my next steps would be, I would love to partner with the service learning coordinator at our school and develop maybe some programming out of that where technology can help to bridge communities. In this case, I'm thinking about gaps in, for instance, within the cathedral community. There are gaps or just places where there are senior communities where the students can go in and maybe transfer knowledge of tech skills to maybe a group of seniors who are wanting to remain connected but just have that gap. So this is one idea that we had. In terms of call to action for educators, we did raise our hands earlier to kind of say who was in the room. One call to action would be, of course, to take risks. Another one is to begin talking to our students about what humane design is. Begin talking to students about the power that they have, and not that we don't, but really impress upon them the power that they have as creators. How do you do that? Give them projects in which they create. Set them in real life, contextual scenarios where they can actually apply knowledge to, they can apply their knowledge to that action. For leaders, expand EdTech curriculum into the community. So it's not just the skills, it's how do we take what we're doing to create? How do we take what we're doing to connect? How do we take this to improve the lives of people within our communities and beyond? And finally, for policymakers, the role of administrators is difficult. I don't take that way at all. One thing that would help is continuing to keep an ear to the ground with students in the area of technology. They need modeling. They want modeling. They may not tell you that, but they need it, and I'm sure they want it. But finding ways to remain connected in this area, I think, would certainly go far. So again, I come back to our original data set about the number of children who have access to a mobile device. This doesn't have to be a threatening statistic, it's a powerful statistic, because if you take this and you instill the mindset, the skills, and the habits of mind in students and children, then they can think, I can do something. They're like that agency, I can do something. I don't have to be an innocent bystander. And with that, I thank you for listening. Be happy to answer your questions.